Would you believe that there is a country right now quietly drafting an official plan for the very scenario in which it ceases to exist? This is also a place whose name you've likely uttered before, without ever realizing it. A tiny island that was once at the center of one of the most horrific man-made disasters of the 20th century. This is a place where 98% of the land is ocean, and the country's highest point doesn't even reach the height of a 4-story building. Welcome to the Marshall Islands. The Marshall Islands sits in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, almost equidistant between Hawaii and the Philippines, one of the most isolated countries humans have ever chosen to settle. The most common way to get here is on United Airlines' Island Hopper route, a strange journey that stops at a string of tiny islands scattered across the ocean before finally landing in the capital. This country isn't a single island, but a chain of 29 coral atolls and 5 separate islands, arranged in 2 parallel rows stretching more than 1,300 kilometers across the ocean. Yet if you combine all the dry land together, the total area is only about 181 square kilometers, smaller than Washington, D.C. And as I mentioned at the start of this video, the country's highest point is only about 10 meters above sea level. The average elevation is just 2 meters. No mountains, no hills, not a single river, simply because there isn't enough land for a river to exist. Majuro, the capital, is home to most of the country's population, connected by a 32-mile road, the longest in Micronesia, running along a strip of land that in many stretches is only a few hundred meters wide. Stand in the middle of that road, turn your head left, and you'll see the ocean. Turn right, and you'll see the ocean too. Farther west lies Kwajalein, an atoll that encircles the largest lagoon in the world, spanning more than 2,000 square kilometers. Yet, the nearly 90 small islands ringing that vast lagoon add up to less than 16 square kilometers of land combined, an enormous ring of water held together by a fragile thread of earth. Look out your window at home, and you'll probably see buildings, hills, or at least a road leading away from the sea. In the Marshall Islands, no matter where you stand in the entire country, you're never more than a few hundred meters from the ocean. This is a country where you experience the water first, and only later realize that somewhere within it lies a strip of land people call home. But if the land here is so fragile above the surface, the world beneath the water is astonishingly abundant. There's one creature that few other places on Earth still have in such numbers: the coconut crab, the largest land-dwelling arthropod in the world, with claws powerful enough to crack open a coconut shell, and a lifespan that can stretch up to 60 years. And at Bikini, the very island once devastated by nuclear bombs, something almost paradoxical is happening because people left and never truly returned. The ocean here has quietly come back to life, becoming one of the rare places left in the world with a nearly intact, thriving population of reef sharks. Sometimes, the place that seems most abandoned turns out to be where life finds its deepest peace. But to fully understand the Marshall Islands of today, we need to go back in time. 4 flags have flown over these waters: Spain, Germany, Japan, and finally the United States, which took control of the islands in 1944. And it was under American administration that the most painful chapter in this country's history began. In 1946, American officials approached the 167 residents of Bikini Atoll with an offer: leave the island their ancestors had lived on for generations, for the good of all humanity. In exchange, they were promised they would soon return. They never truly did. Between 1946 and 1958, this region endured 67 nuclear weapons tests. Spread evenly across those 12 years, these waters absorbed, on average, the explosive force of a bomb and a half, like the one dropped on Hiroshima, every single day. The most infamous of these tests, codenamed Castle Bravo, took place on March 1, 1954, the largest hydrogen bomb the United States ever detonated. What fell afterward wasn't ordinary ash. It was an entire coral reef, pulverized into fine white dust, then carried by the wind onto islands dozens of miles away, places where no one had ever been warned. On Rongelap, children ran outside to play in the white ash, thinking it was snow falling in the tropics. It took roughly 2 days before authorities evacuated the residents, long enough for many to absorb radiation doses whose consequences would last for generations. In those same waters, a Japanese fishing boat named Lucky Dragon No. 5 was caught in the same radioactive cloud, even though it was fishing in what was believed to be a completely safe zone, nearly 100 miles from the danger area. A few months later, the boat's radio operator died, becoming the first officially recorded casualty of the hydrogen bomb era. Before he passed, he reportedly had only one wish: that he would be the last victim of nuclear weapons in the world. 70 years later, do you think that wish has come true? By the late 1970s, the U.S. military gathered all the contaminated soil and radioactive debris into a massive bomb crater, then sealed it shut with concrete. Locals call it Runit Dome, but a true tomb is supposed to be sealed on every side. This one never was. Its floor was never lined, just porous natural coral, as fragile as the very country trying to hold it together. And now, as sea levels rise, year after year, that concrete cap has begun to crack. This is where the legacy of the past and the threat of the future meet, quite literally. The Marshall Islands gained independence in 1986, but the fight for full justice and compensation for these consequences continues to this day. Living on a fragile strip of land, the Marshallese have built their economy almost entirely around the one thing they have in abundance: the ocean. Their exclusive economic zone spans one of the richest tuna fishing grounds on the planet, and Majuro has become one of the busiest tuna transshipment ports in the world. But here's the surprising part. By total fleet tonnage, where do you think the Marshall Islands, a country with less land area than a single city district, ranks in the world for ship registration? Few would guess that the answer is third, right behind Liberia and Panama. Right now, thousands of commercial vessels are sailing across every ocean on Earth, flying the flag of a country that could vanish from the map before this century is over. Because right now, the people of the Marshall Islands are facing an entirely new threat, one that comes not from bombs, but from the very ocean that has sustained them for thousands of years. Sea levels here are rising at nearly twice the global average. King tides now regularly flood roads and even cemeteries. In response, the government has published an adaptation plan that stretches all the way to the year 2150. In the worst-case scenario, the country may only be able to preserve a handful of parcels of land for the long term. At this point, I want you to pause and ask yourself, if someone offered you $1 million to spend an entire year living in a place where even the native residents aren't sure their own children will still have a homeland to come back to, would you say yes? Faced with such a grim outlook, official surveys show that 99% of residents say they refuse to accept the idea of leaving. Yet, amid all this bleakness, there are still surprises. The floor of Bikini Lagoon today hides a ghost fleet, the wrecks of warships sunk during the old nuclear tests, now considered one of the most extraordinary dive sites on the planet and recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. At Kwajalein, SpaceX launched the very first Falcon 1 rockets in the company's history, a successful 2008 flight from this site that's widely credited with saving the young company from bankruptcy. And here's a fact few people expect. Roughly 1/3 of all Marshallese people now live abroad, most of them in Springdale, Arkansas, a community so large it's jokingly called the country's 30th atoll. If you grew up on one of the remote outer islands, where the future of the very land you were born on remains a huge question mark, while you already hold the legal right to settle in the United States with nothing more than a plane ticket, would you choose to stay, or would you choose to leave? Before we talk about housing, let me ask you something simple. Where did the water you brushed your teeth with this morning come from? Chances are your answer is the tap, from some treatment plant you've never given a second thought. In the Marshall Islands, the most common answer is last month's rain. Because these are thin strips of coral, there are almost no rivers here and no substantial groundwater. Most households rely on large catchment tanks set up beside their homes to collect and store rainwater throughout the year. Homes here are typically built close to the lagoon's edge, where the water is calmer than on the open ocean side. Many families live clustered together on the same plot of land their ancestors have held for generations, because land here carries a meaning that runs far deeper than simply having a place to live, something we'll dig into further later on. As soon as the sun comes up, fishing boats are already pulling in. If you're lucky, you might even spot a hermit crab hauling a shell bigger than its own body, slowly making its way across the sand, one of the smallest, most patient residents of these islands. How much fish do you think you eat in a year? The average Marshallese person consumes about 240 pounds of fish annually. For most of us, that's likely less than half of what a child here eats in just 3 months. At the Majuro market, life moves at a much slower pace than in big cities. Just the sound of people chatting, the smell of tropical fruit, and sacks of dried coconut meat laid out to dry. Children here grow up with the ocean as a constant playground, and many of them learn to swim before they can even walk steadily, simply because the sea is always right there, just a few steps from their front door. Life in the Marshall Islands isn't flashy, and it isn't rushed, but it moves to a rhythm all its own, slow, close-knit, and entirely dependent on the ocean that surrounds them every single day. If you asked who really holds the power in a Marshallese family, the answer might surprise you. Society here operates on a matrilineal system. Land rights are passed down through the mother's line, not the father's. Men may serve as the public face of the family, but it's the women who truly hold the keys to the entire clan. One of the most important celebrations is Kamem, marking a child's first birthday. This tradition dates back to a time when surviving the first year of life was a milestone significant enough for the whole extended family to celebrate, with relatives coming in from islands across the country, and even flying back from the United States. But this might be the most astonishing part of Marshallese culture. Long before compasses, long before GPS, the Marshallese found ways to cross hundreds of kilometers of open ocean between atolls using nothing but their own bodies to feel the waves. This technique is called wave piloting. A navigator would lie in the hull of the canoe with their eyes closed, sensing how the vessel rocked with different wave patterns, swells bending around an island, swells rebounding off a submerged reef, and from that alone, chart the exact course to follow. Try closing your eyes for just 5 seconds right now. Can you sense anything around you besides darkness? Marshallese navigators did this for hours on end, crossing an ocean with no landmarks whatsoever, and still found their way home. To pass this skill down, they created stick charts made from coconut leaf ribs and shells, but these charts were never taken out to sea. They were only used to memorize the patterns on land, then left behind, because the real knowledge had to live in the navigator's mind and body, not on any map. This knowledge was once guarded as an absolute secret, and today it stands on the verge of disappearing entirely as the last remaining masters of the craft pass away, while climate change itself is reshaping the very wave patterns their ancestors read for hundreds of years. So there we have it. We've traveled from these fragile strips of land in the middle of the ocean, through pages of painful history that have never truly closed, to a culture that continues to endure against overwhelming odds. And now, let's circle back to what I promised to explain at the start of this video. Just days after the first bomb test at Bikini Atoll in 1946, a French designer unveiled a daring, never-before-seen two-piece swimsuit and named it after that very island, hoping it would set off an explosive reaction in public opinion, just like a real bomb. That name spread across the entire world. But the real story behind it, of people forced to leave their homeland forever, is a story almost no one remembers anymore. Now, let's go back to the question I asked at the beginning of this video, about $1 million and a year of your life spent living here. After everything you've just seen, is your answer still the same as it was at the start? Thank you for joining Extreme X Travel on today's journey to the Marshall Islands. Leave your answer in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, so we can keep exploring the strangest, most extraordinary places on Earth, together.